Hello and welcome to another tutorial. I've chosen to do a dress. It's from a Burda magazine, and it's not of the younger magazines. It's already from 2011, I think. I will tell you later exactly when it's from, in case if you want to find it. And I wasn't very sure about making this dress, because in the magazine there is a very thin young woman wearing this dress, and I thought, this is going to be right for me. Well, I tried it anyway, and I'm quite happy with it. I think I was successful. Anyway, I like to tell you, in the magazine, they tell you to use a jersey for the top, for the middle part, and to use a crepe satin for the other material. Well, I couldn't find any color that I would have liked to make this dress of. That's why I've chosen for this part not a satin. I used a chiffon, which I underlaid with another material not to have it so see-through. What is so nice on this dress is I like to wear short dresses. And if you don't like this is no problem. You can at any time change this dress, as this jersey part is like a skirt. So you can pull it up as high as you wish, or you can make a longer dress out of it if you don't need to be so uncovered. You can pull it down even more if you want to. Do it as you like to wear it. It holds up anyway because of the jersey stretch material. It keeps it really nice and tight. And what's so nice about this dress? Even starters can do this dress for themselves. The cutting is very, very easy. You will see in my explanation later on in this video, because all you have to do is cut 5 different right angle pieces in different sizes, of course, but will be explained. And those 5 pieces you start on the top, and so one by one together, and the dress is finished. It's really easy, really nice. So why don't you watch my video and maybe make yourself a real nice cocktail going out dress. Here we go.
First of all, I like to show you the original picture from the Burda magazine from 7/2011. And I like to show you the original explanation, instructions, how to do it. I know it's in German, but maybe the actual numbers of the sizes will help you to do this cutting. But I also will show you an extra part now here. You see here how I did it. I decided to show you in the order how the dress will be stitched together from A all the way down to C. The A is the top one in jersey. The next one is either satin or, like in my case, as I've chosen a chiffon. And the 2 jersey parts that will be stitched together, and again then I chosen my chiffon. But you will see exactly how I stitch them together, but this would be the exact sizes for a size 20, which is a short size, or it's the same 40 actually. But I'm a 38-40, and I used for my measurements exactly those that you can see here now, plus the seams that you have to add, of course. Besides, on the piece A, I made it, instead of 28, I made it 34 high, because I didn't want it to be too short over the bust. But now, let's start stitching those 5 pieces together as soon as you got them cut. On all small pieces, you can first of all go to your overlock and clean off all these short edges. Only the short edges, not the long sides. And then we stitch those 5 pieces first of all together. As you can see here, this is my chiffon part with the white material that I underlaid it, because as I said, I didn't want it to be see-through. So my seam that I added is 1 centimeter. I cleaned this small edge here off with the overlock, and now I'm just stitching the first part of those 5 pieces that I have, just the small seam together. And exactly that we have to do to all 5 pieces. It doesn't matter which one you start with, as this is on all parts exactly the same job. So here I take the next piece, again my chiffon, and also 1 centimeter, as that is my usual way how I cut all my seams. Besides, if it's a bottom seam from a dress or trousers, that of course I make much wider, as you got to fold it in twice. But on normal seams I always do a 1 centimeter. This is usually by the industrial sewing people done as well like that. But as I said many times before, this is always up to you. So here's one of my jersey parts. This one I didn't do with the overlock because that is not necessary on this particular edge, as I'm not going to have no running threads or anything like that. You do not need to do this stitch on an extra stretchy stitch machine. You can do it with your normal straight sewing machine, as there will be no tension on when you wear this part, as it's going downwards and not sidewards. So it does not need an extra stretchy stitch by any mean. Now I got my 2 short pieces. This is the piece C, which we have twice, exactly the same size, because they will be stitched actually together later on. As you can see, this jersey parts, they're a little bit rolling over on the edges. That is with lots of jersey materials like that. This is later on a little bit funny to work with, but not so difficult either. As I said before, this is also a very nice dress to make for somebody who has not done so much sewing in their life yet, but want to really get into it, because all seams are actually straight stitching seams. There is nothing so difficult about it. As long as you take your time with it, you will be able to make this dress for yourself. So here's my part number 5. And as soon as I got this one closed, I have to go to my ironing board and iron all the seams apart of these 5 pieces. When all seams are ironed apart, you start with your piece A, which is the top piece first of all. So what we do, you take the seam and fold the seam left on left side onto each other, and pull it all around like that, and put edge on edge together. Start where you have your seam, then look towards the other side and look for the half, exactly the half on the other side. Put their edge on edge together and take a pin and put a mark in with a pin on the other side, which is exactly half now on your material. Now you put your pin opposite where your seam is. Put in the seam maybe as well a pin so you see it better, and it's held together a little bit as well. Put them exactly on top of each other, and then mark the quarters of this top part that we have here on our part number A. You can also always check again these numbers over by maybe going back to the cutting explanation, and you can see exactly what I mean then. So this first part, part A, is folded in half with the left side inside. So now you marked those 4 parts practically, so it's exactly 4 the same parts. Now you have to take the part B. The part B has to be stitched, of course, onto A, and our first job is here as well to divide this in 4 parts, in 4 pieces. Again, start by looking where your seam is. Take the seam, fold it exactly across in half, And now you can mark it however you wish with a pen. But I like to make myself just a little triangle cut in, because later on this is very easy to see when everything is ruffled together. And as well here, I put the seam on top of my first little cut and divide in this way the other 2/4 that I need. Now we have to do with a very big stitch the first ruffing here. As this is quite long, this is over 1 meter altogether, I like to do this in 2 parts. Where you start, it doesn't matter. So I start here where my seam is, as this is always a good starting point. And I will put 2 seams next to each other to then pull the material into the little parts together that I wish to have there. I stitch on approximately 1 centimeter width, and I hold the stitch by going back and forth and just go along this edge to my second cut that I have, because this is my exactly the half. When I get to that half, there you see it coming, I stop here and I pull my threads out, because I need them for pulling the thread to ruffle this piece up. Here I start again by holding the stitch going back and forth, and I go exactly to my start, practically back again where I started this first particular seam. And as well, when I get here, I have to pull my thread out now, as I will need it. So I cut that off there. So now I put a second stitch about 2 or 3 millimeters above this one that I got there already. And I stitch along just all the way over my first quarter. And actually, I have to admit, I did a little mistake. I should have stopped here, but I was sewing so quick that I just continued. And when I got to the third one, suddenly I thought, whoops, I've gone over the one where I wanted to pull it out. Yes, now I just realized that. Okay, I have to do something else then on that point. But it's better if you also stop on the exactly on the half again and pull the thread out and not do what I just did. Well, I'm human as well. Okay, here we go. Pull the thread out again. Leave some hanging for pulling it in. Now where I stitched over too fast, I have to fiddle a little bit here. Lilo. So I carefully pull my thread a little bit up. So, and I have on the top, by the way, when I like to do this ruffing together, I always have a slightly thicker thread on the top, because then I can pull my top threads easily to put this all nicely together. Now this has to be pulled in evenly on both halves that we just prepared. And I'll show you that in just a moment. Now I have to cut that thread through here to be able to pull it correctly. That's right. Now I take my second thread that I have there for my first seam, hold them both together and evenly pull this one in and the other side just the same. As soon as you got these all pulled in, check again that both of your sides are really divided evenly and the width is evenly divided, and it should be now all the way around 1 meter and 4 centimeters, or if you wish to say 52 centimeters each of the halves. So put all those threads out of the way and take your piece number A. Now put both of the seams, as you only got one seam on each part. This is easy to remember. Put your first seam from the chiffon down and put, or from the satin, and put your seam from your jersey part on top of each other. My seam added is 1 centimeter. So I just do the first stitches by holding the material down for a start. And now I have to pull the chiffon straight so I don't put no funny pleaches in somewhere. And also here you can still hold your thread and pull it a little bit more in or out. And now I look for my first quarter cut that I have here. There's my quarter cut, and there is the quarter where the needle is stuck into the jersey. And you can see already it still needs to be pulled quite a bit. So you have to slightly pull it on top of the satin or the chiffon, whichever material you have, and do bit by bit. Put all the edges onto each other and go along. And again, when you get that, check where your 2 points are. That's supposed to be coming together. There you see the needle and you see my cut end. So you know approximately how much you have to pull the jersey into position. Of course, you can put more points in. It doesn't have to be a quarter. You could make it in eighths. Then it's much easier again for you. But it also does work like that. Now, as I mentioned before, this is completely out of a Burda magazine, what I'm showing you here, this dress. And they said in the description in German, just put the needles on the 4 points from your jersey part. But I tell you, as this material is rolling so much, as you can see, that you got to do so much holding, I suggest, if you're not so good with the sewing yet, you better stitch that edge from the jersey just with a very big stitch together first of all. It doesn't have to be a zigzag. Just put the biggest stitch on you got and stitch them together. Okay, here we go. We're on the next quarter, and we got about 4 or 5 centimeters, I would say, to the next point there. That means I got to pull my jersey a little bit. And the reason why this is also made like that, and with the pulling, that again is a reason why you do not need to do this with a zigzag machine or with a special machine which has a stretchy thread automatically a seam happening, because you're stretching this including the length of your thread that will happen there. Because the reason is, as there's no zipper or buttons or anything into the dress to get into it later, the way this is made here, you can still get easily into the dress, no matter if you want to pull it over the head or if you're going to put it on from getting in with your legs first of all. There is enough width from this stretchy jersey, and it's just so nice and so beautiful to work with this material and to wear it. I mean, I think it's so nice on the body when you have a jersey material. So I'm getting to my next point here. I got to look out. Edge on edge. I'm stitching 1 centimeter, and all 3 parts are got to be evenly on the cut edge together. Otherwise, we're getting uneven seams. So I just pulled out the next needle that I had there, the next pin. And as you can see, we only got 1/4 left here. And also there, you see, I have to stretch the jersey a little bit to get exactly that width in that it needed and is necessary to have the shape, the form, the model as it has been constructed, and that's the way it's got to be. So I continue all the way to the end, and here we go a little bit more. As I said before, this jersey is rolling and rolling. Stitch it together if you will do this dress. It will be much, much easier than what I got to do here. I'm putting all the threads out of the way. I'm not stitching them in. I like to work tidy from the way beginning. There we go. Now, you could go to your overlock and clean it off, this particular seam, but I decided I'm gonna stitch the whole dress together, and then I do all seams in one go on the overlock. So first of all, look at this. So far, you see the top bit, and you see the first part of the chiffon, of the satin. If you have any little threads sticking out here from the roughing in from earlier on, that is no problem. That you just pull out afterwards. But therefore, it gets very, very even when you do it like that. So we got part A and B stitched together. That's a good start so far. So again here we have to do the same. We have to again make 4 parts out of it. So I'm putting this little cut in there, opposite of my seam. Now I put the cut and the seam together, and this will be my other quarters to the right and to the left, where I put this little cut in. I'm not doing the cuts on the jersey because then I could get some runners happening, but on this material, because when it's pulled together it's much easier. So now we get to the part to take the 2 C cutting parts. A and B is together. Here is 2 C's exactly the same, and those parts now you put the left side inside on both of them, and now best is also you do yourself some quarter measurements first. I didn't do that. Honestly, I've forgotten. That's why. While I was stitching, suddenly I think, I should have done that. Doesn't matter, so I'm holding it to the full length first, and I keep looking for my end as I'm used to doing this. And you can see right away here, when you stitch this together, it doesn't roll so much anymore. It's much better. So please, if you sew this dress, do it on your A piece as well. Stitch the edge together first. And this particular seam now, going around, we have to do to this first part, and the same on the other part as well. Also, not on the other part, sorry. We got the 2 C parts here, and we're stitching after we folded them into each other with the right side on the outside. We go along the top edge and the bottom edge. Let's call it that way. Maybe that's easier to understand. As you can see here, I'm starting right here, the other side, the opposite side of the C part, to stitch the edge. Just 2 or 3 millimeters together. If you wish, you can do that with a small overlock stitch as well. Then it's even better held. That is all up to you. I'm not a big machine changer. I like to stick on one machine and then go on the other one and finish off. As I mentioned once in my video before, when it comes to that kind of jobs, I'm a bit lazy. I always like to choose the fastest way for me, for myself. So I should almost be around this C part. That means we do have 5 parts, but actually as soon as this particular one is stitched together, you actually have only 4 parts for this dress to stitch onto until you have a completely new dress. That's how easy that is. As soon as you've finished the C parts being put together, you have to put them into quarters again with the pins or whatever you want to, and we have to ruffle this part again. That means our chiffon or your satin, as this will be added onto there. This is too wide the way it is, and we slightly have to ruffle the satin chiffon in again. Same as on the first part on the top, I start with holding my thread, and with a very big stitch I go first of all to my second cut, which is exactly half of that piece, if I do it correctly this time. I pull my thread out. I start again where I stopped. On half of this, I'm holding the thread by going back and forth with my machine, and with this big stitch on 1 centimeter width from the edge, I'm stitching all the way to where I started. I put the seam apart as I ironed it apart, and I leave some thread hanging for the pulling. And my second seam about 2-3 millimeters above that one, I go along there also with this big stitch to do a good roughing, smoking on that top part, to be able to stitch my part C onto it in a moment. Here I put my thread out of the way a little bit because I don't want to stitch over it, then I wouldn't be able to pull it. That's also something you got to be careful about. Put it all out of the way. And this is the last time I have to do this second stitching here over my first one that I have there on 1 centimeter. And here we get to the end already. That was where my start is, where my seam is, and also there I have to pull my thread out. Now I do exactly the same what I did to the other piece, and something else. This is very, very little what you have to pull in here. You have to only pull this in now on every half by 56 centimeters the length, the half. That means all the way around you would have left a width of 1 meter and 12, which will be added onto the jersey part. But don't be surprised, this is really only very, very little what you're pulling in. But if you would all wanted to do it by stretching the jersey, this would be too much. So it's best you do this little bit of roughing first on both of the halves, check your lengths, measure again and spread it out, and then it can be stitched onto the jersey part. Take your time by slowly just pulling a little bit in until you got it all divided the way you like to do it and like you like to have it. I marked on my sewing machine just with a pencil a little mark on my 56 centimeters so I can keep on holding it onto. Anyway, as soon as you got this evenly done the way you like to have it, then take your part C, open it up, look where your seam is, look where your seam from your chiffon is. As mentioned before, you only got one seam there, and put the seam on top of the seam right there. Check if you got it really lying on the right side, not that you turn it by accident the wrong way around, because you got to have at the end all your seams on the left side. You see my complete dress lying here, so that's how yours should be lying. Now again, you look for your quarter measurement that you have there, the cuts in the chiffon, and you have the little pin in your jersey part, and you do exactly what you've done on the first seam that we did on the part A to stitch on part B, and now we're on C. Bit by bit, always checking where do I want to go to. So I'm pulling my first needle out because I got my first quarter cut here on my chiffon, and I'm pulling a little bit the jersey to be exactly onto that point. Underneath, make sure that your chiffon, the ruffles you have, that they're lying straight down, that they're not going sideways. Here you can see the difference again between my needle and my little triangle cut in. That's where I got to end when I stretched it on the top. That's got to come on top of each other. Otherwise you got somewhere a width that you don't want, and somewhere else it's all flat and is missing. That wouldn't be any good either. So continue. Put all the little threads that happened from the sewing, from the working with the material out of the way, because it's not nice when you stitch them suddenly onto the right side. That's always awkward to cut them tight off then and to work tidy. I like to work tidy by really keeping everything clean from the beginning. The nicer and the better is towards the end. Again, here you look for your part. You see the amount I got to hold in, pull in, however you want to call it, as we're slightly, not much, but we're slightly stretching our jersey. And what you can see now here, earlier on the first part, stitching A and B together, this jersey kept rolling and rolling and rolling. You could have done a song out of that. And here, just by stitching the edge first together, only on 2-3 millimeters width, it lies flat already, and all I have to do is pull it on top of my chiffon and stitch all the way around. And there you could also see the end, the part I have to put the widths in, and here we go. I'm at the end already. Only another 10 centimeters to go. And my part C is stitched on, so 3 or 4 parts, as you wish, are put together already. Again, I put the threads a little bit out of the way, and this seam is done. Here you can see 4 parts are stitched together, or 3, as you like to say. So all we got left is now to add our last piece. Here it is. And now there, very carefully watch out that you're putting the right parts together, and first of all, again, mark your quarter pieces. You could have done that in the beginning on all of them in one go, or whenever you get to the part. You do that as you wish. Now I got the right side of the dress lying outside, you can see that. Now I pull my practically finished dress inside that last part. Again, I'm looking for my seam. This is so invisible on this material, I got to search a bit. And here nothing needs to be ruffled in. This is only going to be stitched on, as it's almost the same width there. You will see that now. So put that seam on top of each other. Check again that your seams then will all be finished and clean. Otherwise you might have it lying the wrong way together. And again 1 centimeter, edge on edge. And I'm looking for my, no, watch, did you see that? I forgot to put the pins in. Yep. Lilo, what are you doing? Dreamer, dream. Yeah, okay, that's the half, the middle, and I'm putting 2 more in the quarters in here. Yep, that's good. That's what you should have done before. And I'm looking for my quarter triangle cuts. Those I didn't forget, luckily, otherwise I would have had to take it out under the machine again. That's not so good. And I go all the way to my quarter cuts here. Take your time, but altogether I can promise you, in the moment you got those 5 pieces for your dress cut, the sewing is really nothing. Here again, my quarters, edge on edge, and I just checked my complete lengths again, which I like to do in between sometimes, because also even doing some marks and some material for putting them later together, they could be wrong. You could have done a mistake somewhere. So why not just checking it before you got the pieces stitched together and you have to open up the seams again? I don't like that. No, I like to do a seam and leave it as it is. That's the best for me. I love to do new sewing, but if my husband or somebody else comes and says, Lilo, can you do me an alteration on something? I don't like to do alterations. I rather do something completely new and fresh. It's so much nicer than having to open up seams. Maybe you've tried this once before. Your husband came and says, I need a new zipper in the jeans. Oh, that's a nice job, I tell you. You can get off sewing totally when you have to do something like that. All right. I'm talking about things I shouldn't be talking about. I'm getting towards the end of this seam, and then there's only 1 seam and the overlook left. Woo! Soon I can wear this new lovely dress and show it to you. That's really nice. Yep, here we are. All right. Now, look at what you've done so far. Maybe you even like to wear it like that. You never know. With this hanging down, it's also possible. Just do a seam on the bottom. That would be all right. Now comes the last big important seam. As the bottom of this dress is turned, not that you thought, oh, what did she do there? It's all pulling on the bottom. No, this was the idea from Burda. And if you look at the original picture that I showed you in the beginning, you can see that it's twisted on the bottom. So normally you would think you have to take this seam now and fold it up to that seam. Well, that would be wrong for the idea that the way the dress is made. You can do it like that, but then you don't have the twist around on the skirt on the bottom. But it would not be wrong to do it like that if you don't like that twist. Look at my finished picture, look at the finished picture from Burda, and maybe you say, no, I'm going to put that on straight. That's just as perfect. So Burda says, now push this seam over by approximately 29 centimeters. Well, this is almost my quarter. My quarter was 28.5. So what I do now Instead of putting seam on top of seam, you take this seam now and pull it over to your quarter cut that you got there. That's exactly how it's got to be pulled around to get that twist into the skirt. I repeat, don't put seam on top of each other. Take one of the seams and pull it by 1/4 to the other cut. And that means you have your other cut right here on the seam. And that's exactly where you're going to start stitching now. You practically stitch in the seam that you do have there already from your first seam when you added the part C onto D. And all we do now is we flap the part D over onto the C piece and the C seam that is there. And now you can see we got the cut here and we got the seam underneath. That means exactly on 1/4 it's been pulled around. But I mention it again, you don't need to do that. If you want this dress on the bottom to hang straight down the same as the top, then put your seams on top of each other and that will be just as fine as well. It will have a different look, but it's not wrong and it could even look nicer. It's all a matter of taste, isn't it? Or fashion, as they say. But to me, fashion, what is it? What is fashion? Fashion is what I like and not what people tell me to wear or to do. So do it the way you want to do it. That's all I can say about this. All right, we're getting towards the end of this dress. So again, now you go always from quarter to quarter. Here you can see my quarters onto each other again. A 1 centimeter seam. Yep. And as soon as I got this one finished, then I have to change machines. I have to go to my overlock and clean off those seams that I've just made on this dress. But the dress itself actually is totally finished. So let me clean it off. Let me tidy it off. My safety machine, also my overlock, has a safety stitch which is exactly on 1 centimeter. That means I'm just covering my seam up as well. And all parts I'm checking are correctly together. This is the skirt part here, the jersey. This is the twisted bottom, as you can see now here already. So I tidy it off, I clean it off, and I will show you the result of it. So here I am with my brand new party cocktail holiday dress. And if you decide to make one like that, then I wish you so much success. And I say thank you for watching. Goodbye.